Harlista 14.
Buenos dias. Mi nombre es Al. They call me Reverend Al. And I've been riding over 50 years. Started in the 50s. So I tell you how old I am now. And I guess my first experience was watching a group of motorcycles go on a highway and fell in love with the passion and the strength that they had in the bikes. And back in Massachusetts, when I was raised, it was different in the 50s and 60s. Not too many people rode the Harleys because a lot of them broke down and a lot of them were not reliable. And if you weren't a mechanic, you were a slave to a mechanic. So back then, you had to really know how to work on bikes. And I started hanging out with the guys that were working on the bikes, and I started getting a passion for the motorcycle lifestyle, and started living the lifestyle back, I guess, when I was 8 years old. Got my first mini bike, and I guess in about 50 years, I've had over 25 bikes. I've actually ridden over 1 million miles all over the country, and I actually went 35 years without owning a car or a truck. I rode a bike every day. So my passion for that was brought here to Florida back in '73, and I still live kind of a rough lifestyle, as you can see, and my background was a little rough. I was in and out of jail as a kid, and my life was really going bad, and having a lot of big issues with drugs and alcohol. I met my wife in '74, and we're still married 38 years later. That was my saving grace there. But I had a real experience back in 1985 where I got delivered from drugs and alcohol overnight. And I didn't know how that would fit, being a Christian and being a biker, and I didn't know how that would tie all in. But then I found out that the prisons had so many people, the millions of people in prisons, and a lot of them have that biker enthusiast, and they just really like to see the bikes. So we actually bring the motorcycles into the prisons. So I started kind of found my niche. I would coordinate all the motorcycles going in, and find out that the guys would come out of the barracks that wouldn't come out for an ordinary crusade, and they would come out and see the bikes, and then we would get to talk to them about our changed life. And I guess back in '98, see, I forget a lot of things, so I said, no, back in '98, we went to Puerto Rico. The man named Jack Murphy asked me to bring a motorcycle over there, so we actually shipped it all the way over there and rode from San Juan to Ponce. And I was actually the only one, and probably the only one still, that has brought a motorcycle in the Las Cuchara, which is the Green Monster, over in Ponce, Puerto Rico. And it was really a good experience because they had a group of guys over there that was in an organization that wouldn't come out for an ordinary program. But we brought the motorcycle in, and we had 500 guys come out just to see that one motorcycle. And we had about 400 guys that got their life right that day. So I knew there was something going on over there. There was a big call, and my love for Puerto Rico was a lot like Canada for me. Well, I was raised Canadian. And I started going back there for 8 years in a row, and we went to Bayamon and Guayama, and started bringing the motorcycles in there, and hooked up with the guys on the island, the Levittown boys, and they came over and they'd bring their motorcycles in. So that was a good experience going back and forth like that. But my love for bikes was really excelled when I started riding full time over here in Florida, and my wife and I would ride all the way to Sturgis. One of our best rides was riding all the way to Sturgis. We were actually on the road for 25 days, rode to 25 states, and did almost 7,000 miles. And my wife said we were 3 inches apart and still got along, so that was pretty good. So we traveled all over the country, and then the next year we went to New England and got to travel 5,000 miles all around New England. So we've got quite a few miles on the bike, and a passion for motorcycles was brought to the people that we see. A lot of people, and we met some people in Pennsylvania that wanted me to go into prisons up there, and they didn't even have motorcycles, so I told them that before they could do a bike run, they had to buy a motorcycle. So our good friends in Pennsylvania bought a bike, and about 8 years now, we've been going back every year to Pennsylvania and visiting the prisons over there, and I speak in the prisons. And then we do a big bike run for this center, the Hope Center, which is a good little Hope Center that helps people out. So the people over there are all riding motorcycles now. The people that we met have brand new Harleys, and they were on the Hondas, and now they have brand new Harleys, and they actually ride to work every day. They sell nuts and bolts for a living, so they ride every day to all their clients and stuff. So it's really interesting like that. And about 4 years ago, I started going to New Hampshire and bringing my motorcycle up there. This bike here I've had since '04. I only got about 100,000 miles, but I actually have 2 more Harleys. I built a custom Harley. It's actually a prison bike. It's got a prison theme. It has handcuffs and razor wires and artifacts from actual prisons from all over the country. And matter of fact, we're heading out tomorrow to go to another prison, and that'll be the 98th prison it's been in. So as we bring this motorcycle in, it's custom built for them. there'll be 1,000 guys, and they usually maybe you get a couple, 300 guys, but there'll be probably 400 guys that come out just to see this bike because they've heard about the bike from all over the place.
So you mentioned about you've been married for a long time. How does how does your wife and the family fit into the Harlista lifestyle and riding? How do they fit into that? Tell me a little bit about how that works.
Well, we got a couple of kids. My son and my daughter don't ride, and that's okay because Orlando's got a pretty busy traffic over here, so I'd probably rather have them not ride. But my wife jumped in the back of my bike when I first met her back in '73, and she's been on ever since. And now she has her own bike. I actually built her a custom bike, and she's been riding for about 15 years now, 20 years, and she's been riding her own bike too. So it just kind of fits in the lifestyle. Everybody knows that, you know, if they call us up and they're going on a bike run, we can get a bunch of our friends and just go out for a good ride. And that's the draw for that, I think, is the brotherhood and everybody getting together. You get some people that are doctors and lawyers and have such a busy lifestyle. They buy a Harley Davidson and now they got 5,000 friends. And of course, Bike Week, you got 500,000 people over there.
So you mentioned that you built all these bikes, so I'm assuming that you're a fairly good mechanic. You a good mechanic, or you just know a good mechanic that helps you with this stuff? Tell me about how you like wrenching on the bike.
Well, the only reason I got 3 bikes is because I'm a good mechanic. I was an automotive technician for General Motors for 28 years, but I always said that the bikes come in territory. You're either a mechanic or you're a slave to mechanic, and you can't have 3 bikes if you're going to have someone else pay for fixing it. But I have a real good friend of mine, Brian, at Motorcycle Clinic, that does my real engine work, and but all the maintenance and stuff I do myself. So which I really enjoy doing.
So what do you do? Is that what you like to do to relax? What do you like to do to relax? It seems like you're busy with the prison ministries, and if you're wrenching on the bike, what do you do to relax?
I like to weld. You know, I still building bikes, and somebody will give me a basket case, and I'll put it together for them. You know, and build bikes. I like welding and doing like folk art. I'm always changing my bikes, doing something to my bikes, customizing my bikes. So really, to relax is hanging out with my wife and bringing out here and working on the bikes and getting the bikes ready because you never know where we're going to be. This bike here, like I said, it's got 100,000 miles, but it's very reliable. I never know when I'm going to hop on here and go to North Carolina or wherever. A couple of years ago, I rode to Pennsylvania, and the first day I did about 700 miles. A lot of people think I was tired, but I said no. I took my big box off the back, and then I rode around for an hour in town. So this is a very comfortable bike. This is a Ultra Classic, which has all the radios and the cruise controls and fuel injection, so it's a very, very reliable bike. So to relax, we're either working on the bikes or riding them.
So you mentioned you've been all over the country, a lot of parts of the world, Latin America. If time was not a factor, if money was not a factor, just whatever happens, whatever bike you want, what would be your ride of a lifetime, and who would you take with you, and why?
I would definitely take my wife. But I think the ride of a lifetime is to fire it up and go west and get all the way to California and shoot up north and go all the way to Oregon, Washington, go to Canada and go all through the Canadian Rockies over there, maybe take a train ride over there, but then ride all the way to the border through there and come back down through Maine and New Hampshire, and I think that would be the ride of our life. And have enough time to do it, relax.
Time isn't a factor.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, so you've been been involved with motorcycles for 50 years. In those 50 years, I'm sure you've experienced some sad things dealing with motorcycles, and again, some real happy things or fun times. Can you give me a quick example of some sad thoughts on being a Harlista that you've experienced, but then again on some really good ones too?
Yeah, I guess the sad part is being an ordained minister and doing what I do. I have to go to hospitals and see the guys that had just got a bike wreck. And I've had a few myself when I going down the road and someone cuts right in front of me and I T-boned the car 40 miles an hour. My wife flew off the bike and broke 7 bones in the pelvis and watched her be in a hospital bed for 4 months. That's tough. Especially someone you love, hurt like that. A few years ago, back in '08, we're going down the road with 12 bikes. You think nothing more safe than being down the road with 12 bikes until someone cuts in our lane and starts hitting us head on and destroyed 11 of the 12 bikes. And 3 guys lost legs, and I got injured pretty bad. So the accidents are what's bad. You see your friends when you go to hospitals and they're really mangled up, and doing the funerals for the ones just because someone's on a cell phone. They didn't see somebody, or somebody was drunk, or they couldn't make good decisions. We always hear about that left-hand turn. So I think the sad part is the accidents.
Yeah. Well, and then I think that could also almost turn into a good part, because if you bring your ministry to those that are in the hospitals, it also brings in a good feeling for them too that you're there. Talk about what happens when you go and see these people that are laid up in hospitals, and
Yeah, it's tough. It's kind of funny sometimes when I walk in. Obviously, I don't look like a normal pastor, and I walk in the hospital and some of the family don't know who I am. And I have a security pass in the hospital. I get to go all the way back in the ICU and trauma units. But I get to go over there and I get to join all the people together and just talk to them and give them the hope and reassurance that whether they make it or not, that they're going to be okay. Just last week, I had to go give last rites to one of the bikers. They found, got my number off of somebody. I was able to spend half an hour with the family and just console them, and they were pretty upset about, not knowing what's going on later on. And me, all the seminary school, they train you how to do the comforting, how to do crisis calls, So just to give them comfort that he's going to be okay either way. Matter of fact, talking about Harley Davidson's, Dick Farmer, which is an icon in Orlando, he just passed away two weeks ago. Mm-hmm. He struggled with cancer. He says either way he's going to win, and he won because he's in heaven. So, yeah. But yeah, you're right. Being around the people and just giving that reassurance that it's going to be okay.
A couple more questions for you. Real simple. Somebody who over the years maybe has inspired you, who you look up to, whether they're alive or dead or current or a historical figure, back to the BC days or anything. Who would that be, and why would you mention that person or that that would inspire you, has inspired you through the years?
That's I guess
that's a tough question.
Well, there's so many people. I don't want to offend anybody. I think the first one I would say is Billy Graham. And it sounds kind of a cliche, but I always think, Billy Graham is one of the leaders in the Christian community that has never had someone, slander him, never found something false with him, And even, Larry King asked him one time, how come you never stuck up for issues? He says, let everybody else have the issues. So he always stuck to what he believed in the basics of Christianity. So when I preach, I've been to his Billy Graham school. I actually wrote Billy Graham, and he wrote me back. So I always think about, what would Billy Graham do? He just loved people where they're at. Why do I go into prison where there's people that obviously hurt a lot of people? Well, I have to not, focus on that, just focus on helping them. So I think Billy Graham has been something that has really stood the test of time and been a great leader.
Yeah. So one last question. The term Harlista means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does being a Harlista mean to you?
Being a Harlista is kind of an image. Not that you have to look like this, but it's just, a lot of people get gold wings, a lot of people BMWs, and yeah, BMW doesn't leak. It probably runs better and more reliable, but it's not a Harley Davidson. When I rode up with this, it's a respect. Because people know when I get on the road and ride, 10,000 miles and ride all over the country, it might break down. And good chances I probably will if it's older, but knowing what to do. So Harley is an image, and Harlista is you can say it's a brotherhood. When you ride up to a bike night, or you ride up to a bar, like sometimes I'll be on the road, people ask me if I stop in churches. I say I usually stop in bars. If I see a group of Harley Davidsons, I'll stop in there, because we all have, and what it is if I go on here, if I'm in Australia, if I'm in Germany, or if I'm in Puerto Rico, and they're on Harley Davidsons, we all have the same common factor, that we know, all the same things about the Harley, and we always had that bond, Gold wings, you never know whether, but Harley Davidsons, they all had the same bond. When I went to Puerto Rico and they all had the Harley Davidson, it was a big thing, because Harleys have that prestige. It always has, and they went through 10 years of when the AMF took over, that they weren't making the best bikes in the world, but they stood the test of time, and I bought them back then, and now they're making a really good motorcycle. So, just to finish up, any last thoughts, any words that you want to say? Comments on anything? Well, the biggest thing about the Harleys is, if you're going to get one, start off with a small one. Get the experience first, and then work your way up. As obviously, I'm not a big guy, and I got this big bike over here, but it depends on how you're going to ride. If you're going to ride around town, you get a small bike. You're going to ride on a highway, this is the bike to get. So, start off going to bike nights, talking around. You see someone with a Harley Davidson, I don't care if it's leaking all, tell them, it looks good. They want to talk about their bike. So. Well, good. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for having me.